I've always, every time we've talked on the phone, I've always wanted to talk to you about promos because every now and then someone will, make up a promo list. Oh, who the best talkers were. Well, you're always on everybody's list, and if you're not on someone's list, then they don't know their ass from a hole in the ground about promos. I played the Hard Times promo in my opening segment, and you've got so many memorable promos throughout your career. Let's spend a little bit of time specifically talking about that. What was your approach to creating your promo style? I mean, your cadence, your rhythm, the way you talk. I mean, you're born with a little bit of a lisp, right, Dust?
And a lot of lift. Yeah, handicapped or whatever.
But I know, but that worked for you because, I mean, the way you put your words together, I mean, it drew me in. You're a little bit older than me. You're the generation ahead of me, so I grew up watching you and just listening to you talk and the emotions. It was like, man, of course, I just loved what you stood for. You were the working man. All these years later, I do this podcast for the working man, but I was drawn to what you were saying because I knew that you were feeling what you were saying. But so many times, and I watch, your stuff, in the Carolinas with the Crockett's, and then, when you went to Vince, a lot of those ringside promos and the stuff you were spitting out was just pure audio gold. And it just say, hey man, if I had the money and I was right there, I'm buying a ticket to see this cat wrestle. Were you always a gifted talker?
I think I was gifted and being able to have a vision of what I wanted to say spontaneously. Not in let's go. It's like when you have done your movie work and all the stuff that you've done. Your hand is script. And I teach my kids now at developmental at WCW. I teach them in the acting class that I teach that's fine and dandy. But no matter what you're handed, it still has to come out of your mouth, has to be you. Growing up in the Sunday in the Black Baptist church that we went to over in Bastrop, Texas, with my dad when he would go over there every Sunday and visit T.C. Lou, who worked plumbing with him. And I would sneak over to that church just like you read about in the movies, and I would hear them sing. And I'd hear the gospel, and I'd hear him talk. And I grew up in that neighborhood where, dominantly black neighborhood and Latino neighborhood. So I finally realized this. It was not like a repetition that came all over my head or whatever they call it, that I got this thing from outer space somewhere, is that the wrestling part was cool. The story in the ring is cool because you got a blank canvas. You got an opportunity with a blank canvas when you walk out there and you'll paint in 20 minutes or an hour, however long you go, you're painting your own portrait. They'll either buy it or they won't. But I understood at an early age that I'm going to see you Friday night and kick your ass in Orlando, Kevin Sullivan, and I'm going to beat you up, and that's at 8 o'clock, and don't forget to buy your tickets at Walmart. Well, that's fine and dandy, man, but, the common man don't want to hear that, man. They wanted to hear what I had to say about current events blended in with the way I told it and the way I told the story. And, they knew I was going to be in Orlando. I didn't have to tell them I was going to be in Orlando. I didn't have to tell them that I was going to be wrestling Kevin Sullivan or whoever it was, or the Korean Assassin. So I took that opportunity to them to spontaneous relate to them how I was feeling on that moment, that morning, that day. And with the Hard Times promo, it was very simple. I was sitting in the control room. J.J. Dillon was my assistant at the time. He was sitting down below me. And I was sitting in the control room doing the show, booking the show, also starring in the program, also starring in TBS 605 for so many years. And he said, okay, you're up. Just like that. JJ turned around and said, yup, Dream. I took the headsets off. I walked out to the set. As I walked through the curtain, I knew that was a point in time where our country was in hard times. But not one thought did I give to this interview until it came out of my mouth. Not one thought till that interview came out of my mouth and became as famous as Gone with the Fucking Wind.
But you just, I never really, I've seen, countless of your promos. When I was watching back in the day, on the Superstation, back in the heyday, or just pulling something up on YouTube, I just never seen a flub, a tick, a hitch, you just always seem to flow.
Yeah.
All of those were just ad-lib spontaneous, or did you ever?
No, they wasn't, Stephen, they was, as you know yourself, because you created a character that there's not anything like it in your era. So we say in the 70s were the Rhodes era, and then they went to the the Hulkamania area, and then they went to the Austin area, and now they go to the Cena area. I left out a lot of people in between there. I left out rock, and left a lot of people, but that were the areas that dominates our landscape of our business. There's no other eras. They were the king of them eras. I mean, as you went through the different eras, that's how it flowed. We talk about Superstar, talk about Ric Flair, but really that was the power of them different areas that I just named. So with that being said, you also had that opportunity to pretty much go out there once they turn you loose and you got in your mind, this is what I'm going to do whether they like it or not. And it becomes real. So the audience believes that it's real. They believe what they were saying. And I wanted them to think one thing. If you were an attorney, you could sit down and eat with me in a fancy restaurant. If you were a black person, you could sit and invite me over and I would eat in your living room. If you were white, I would do this in your living room. I would play with your kids. I was a cowboy. So I tried to encompass one thing, and Steve, always remember this, and I try to teach this too, is if I'm selling, I want them all selling in the audience. If I'm coming back, I want them all coming back. If I'm bleeding, I want them bleeding. If I win, they win. If I lose, they lose. Once you encompass that whole concept of our industry, that's when you become a power broker. And power broker I did, like it or not, with all the knocks or whatever and all the great things that happened. I'm very blessed. Power broker I was. You're a power broker. She's a power broker. You know what I mean? And Hogan was a power broker at the time. There were four. They were power brokers. That's not saying I'm better than Ric Flair or anything, or better than Steve Austin. I'm just saying doing it in the 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000.
Well, let's talk about what you just brought up a while ago. You said while you're teaching the kids that you're teaching down there at the WWE Performance Center in Orlando, Florida, Dusty.
Yeah.
So what exactly are you teaching these cats? Purely promos or also in-ring work?
No, I mean, there's the coaches. It's like minor league baseball, developmental system, the finest athletes in the world that we can find. We bring them in like to go to the university. They come in, they go to school. They're there 7 days a week. They have house shows that they go to. And then I have two classes. I have one tonight, but I'm teaching all during the week. We have rooms set up in this facility where they can go in and cut their own promos, show them back to me, their creative aspects. They can do all these things. But with that said, my main thing is that I call it communication class.
Good.
I don't call it acting class. Or a good friend of mine, Howard Fine in LA, has a great studio.
Yeah.
And I designed it a little bit after him. So I will take these 80 kids that we have now, girls and guys, I break them up into two classes. They have the opportunity to come in there, and I let them be themselves for that 3 hours a night. I let them go up and cut a 1 minute promo, a 1:30 promo. But really all I'm on to see is communication. How do they communicate when the red light is on and there are 50 million people watching instead of just 40 people at a independent show or a little old house show somewhere? Will the people believe them? So it's my philosophy on how to draw people to the arena, how to become entertainers, and how to talk to the media, and how to talk to the sixth grade school kid, how to talk to the high school kid, how to talk to the college kid, how to talk when you walk up and meet Steve Austin. I mean, what you going to say? You're going to bumble over yourself and say, my God, you know, Stone Cold Steve Austin. How are you going to react? There's communication. Eyeball, communicate with the audience. You got it made. If they believe that you're real, they believe what you're saying is real, no matter how entertaining it is, right. No matter how many bands come out and how much happens. If they believe you, that's what cuts the good ones from the bad ones. And that's the ones that make art successful. And I'm sure you found that in the movie. But that I teach all the aspects of communication and entertainment. I'm the WWE's developmental head of creative. So creative means come to me with a pitch. You want to drive a truck in the building, a beer truck in the building? Well, we already done that, okay? But right. When I say that somebody's already done that, when I say Steve's done that, then I say, okay, now I got the concept. You had the vision. You got it somewhere from someone. Now make it your own. How would you do that different? How would you make that to where they say, oh, I've seen Steve do that? Or would they say, man, that's the first time I ever seen that? Right. So come up with something with your vision. And so all them things we teach. And and we move them up. And you know, the White families just you know, they came out of the developmental system. Matter of fact, we have about 24 to 30 people in the last 4 years come out of this WWE developmental system that are now on the current roster. So it's an amazing bunch, and all the trainers and coaches there do a great job.